where we talk about everything: diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging under the sun for all types of organizations, big, small, private, nonprofit, public. And I'm excited today to be joined by Shatora Donovan, who is the Chief Diversity Officer for the City of Buffalo. And I'm trying to think back, Shatora, to we've done, I think it's probably coming on close to 75 of these conversations. And I don't think we've ever had a conversation with somebody from city government. So I'm pretty excited to have you break us into some new territory. If you would first just introduce yourself, because I think your background, just looking at your background, to me, it was like, wow, it seems like every single thing that she did before this led her to where she is. And then let's talk about what you're doing at the City of Buffalo.
Yeah, so I am an attorney, and I am a social worker. So I started off in the social work program, decided that I couldn't do one-on-one stuff, and then went to law school. I always wanted to be a lawyer, but kind of had to figure out how I could make it work for myself. And then I went to law school and decided that I was going to do more policy level work. So I started off as an immigration attorney, doing everything from corporate immigration all the way to humanitarian work. And that was in and of itself a very expansive, opening experience. And then I got into nonprofit management, starting programs throughout the region, especially for underrepresented communities. And then I got the opportunity to be the Chief Diversity Officer here for the city itself. So it's a great journey.
Like every single one of those. So I just have to say, City of Buffalo, you are lucky to have Shatora sitting in the seat that she's in. So let's talk about some of the things that you're doing as a city, and how and some of the challenges, particularly in these times, because you came into this role at what a time, right?
Yeah. So I came in, not really sure how to approach this work at all. And they're really, in 2018, becoming a Chief Diversity Officer was becoming more and more prolific, but there still was no playbook. And Buffalo we call a city of neighborhoods, which means also that we're segregated. We live in homogenous groups, and that's okay, because then you get to maintain some of your culture and your background, and that's a beautiful thing. But it also can create a bit of tribalism and isolation from understanding other folks. And so that was a big concern of mine. How am I going to approach this work in a way that will resonate with everyone? So I didn't know. And then I met some really smart people, actually the same people who connected us. And shout out to Madeline and everybody over at I4CP. Right. But honestly, they really helped me to focus on the data, focus on the things that you can control. And then from there, really grasping a sense of what the needs are in a more objective way really helps the message to be something, the message of why a role like mine exists, to be more accepted by people from all backgrounds. And so one thing I say all the time is, for people who are like, well, what is a Chief Diversity Officer? I always say, if I change my name to Chief Dignity Officer, you would really understand what I do. And so it's not a divisive role. It's very much a role that is meant to dignify everyone. And it's not just for people who look like me or you, right? It really is for everyone, and to create a higher functioning organization and a more inclusive organization.
I love that so much because that just cuts right to the chase of all of this, right? Like it is about human dignity and seeing the and treating one another with that dignity and respect that we all crave and deserve.
Mm,
Uh,
mhm.
okay, so let's talk about some challenges. And for context, probably not everybody knows this. First, how big is the city of Buffalo, and then how big is your city government?
Okay, so the city of Buffalo is the second largest city in the state of New York, outside of, so New York City, then Buffalo is the next largest, but we're a mid-sized city. So we grew over the last 10 years. So we're about 280,000 people now. City government is fairly large. So we have police, fire, public works, all that fall under, along with all the white collar workers and everything like that. So we've got about 3,000 employees in city government as well.
Perfect, right? So
Um,
Shatora is leading an organization, right? Is doing this work in an organization that's 3,000 that impacts almost 300,000.
exactly,
Right.
exactly.
Right. I think
And
just like context, right, for how, because I think that's the other piece of the work that you do. It's not just impacting the employees of the city, it's impacting the entire community.
and I've never really framed it like that, but that's exactly when you talk about the challenges, that's exactly the challenge of
Mhm.
this work is that uh, underrepresented groups, historically disinvested communities look to government for solutions
Mhm.
more so than other communities. And so one of the challenges is managing expectations of what government is here to do and giving individuals, families, and communities the tools that they need to create the life that they want. Something that I say to people, because people have, they, right now we have the second highest child poverty rate in the nation, and that's weighty. That means that of there's a lot of responsibility on local government to take care of the most vulnerable populations. And so what the approach that we take is one of empowerment, because you know we definitely give resources to people, but we go beyond just giving a man a fish. We want to teach people how to fish. And so that means, and there's sirens going around, so I apologize if you can hear them. But um, that means in building more businesses, small businesses, locally, giving more contracts to minority and women-owned companies. Um, it means giving people the tools they need to, maybe rental assistance, things like that. And then giving them jobs, upskilling them, so that they can continue to pay their rent and also take care of their families in a living wage job. So we connect folks to places like Tesla. Um, we have we have the privilege of having a Tesla factory here in Buffalo. And they're very much all about diversity and inclusion, but so are a lot of the headquarters in the city, M&T Bank, Rich Products. Everybody reaches out because we really do have a focus in our community on giving opportunities to folks. And so, we upskill people in order to be able to take jobs in advanced manufacturing. There's tech academies, there's all kinds of things. So there's the opportunity, which is coming, it's here, there's a lot of it, but there's two sides to the coin. There's also being able to distribute that opportunity in a way that doesn't set people up for failure.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, right, because then then you can get into that. Well, we tried that and it didn't work.
Exactly, exactly,
Versus,
exactly.
right, yeah, yeah. I mean, we talk about that in the corporate context a lot, where it's like, boy, if you're going to hire for diversity, you better put people in environments where they can be successful. Otherwise it's like, oh, well, we tried that and it didn't work. Well, no, you set people up to fail versus setting people up to thrive. Right.
Mhm.
So what would you say have been some of the wins over the last 18 months? Right. The last 18 months have been pure chaos on so many levels.
Mhm.
And you're talking about both the employees of the city and then the community itself. What are some bright spots?
So internally, the people who work in city government are so open and reflective of how they can be a part of the solution.
Mhm.
Um, somebody asked me, and I can't remember who it was at all, but over the last year, like, what challenges did I face from my colleagues, other cabinet members? And I said, none. I've been pulled in 100% by everyone around the city who makes decisions in city government, so that they could not only improve their own departments, but improve their practices, so that as we're interacting with the residents, we're doing it in a more thoughtful way. So
Just
that's a huge win.
stop right there. That is a
Yeah.
huge win. Like
Yeah.
how many people can say that, right? That it's like, I've got leadership leaning in toward me, right? And asking
Mhm.
and leadership inviting me to the table
Mm.
and being
Too
willing.
much, too much. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You're like, I only have so much time.
Yeah.
But that's extraordinary. That's a huge
Yeah.
win. And that says so much. I think, if I think about now, it'll be exciting to have a conversation in 3, 4 years to see all the progress that's been made, if that's sort of what's happening from a leadership level.
Oh yeah. And it starts at the very top with the mayor. And it is just infused throughout the entire organization. So it's been very rewarding internally, to have this role during this time, and to be leaned upon, especially by people, who have worked here, for 20 years or longer,
Yeah.
and see me as a valuable resource, to what they do every day. And then externally, externally, there's been a lot of wins. The one win that I will say, is the most effective, in my opinion, is how candid we can have these conversations now.
Mhm.
When before, there was a lot of thought on my part of what I said, how I said it, you know, um, talking about race and gender and all those things. It was just really, really taboo before 2020. And now, we can talk about the impacts of past policies,
Mhm.
past laws, um, past and current systems,
Yeah.
that have gotten us here in a way that I was very hesitant and reticent to do just a year and a half ago.
Boy, isn't that the truth? Like, if there's any silver lining to all of this, I think this level of candor and willingness to look, before, equity was never, like, people that were talking about equity were having to do it in such a careful way.
Mhm.
Now it's like, boom, equity.
Yeah,
Let's
let's
go.
talk about it.
Right?
Yeah,
Let's talk about it. Yeah. And
let's talk about it.
I love that because boy, you can get things done so much faster when you can be having the real conversation that needs to be had.
You just you just slice through it. You get to the point, and I'm very pragmatic, and that's my problem is, because sometimes I have a hard time figuring out how to say things in a more palatable way, less direct, not condescending, but just,
By
you
the
got
way,
to get.
if anyone on the Moxie team is watching right now, they're laughing so hard. So they're like, sometimes Mo's like a brick that comes at you.
Right, right. It's all, right there. And so, also reframing the conversation, because this is not equity, diversity, inclusion is not, it is not a conversation of scarcity. It is a conversation of abundance.
Yes.
And it is not a conversation of victimization. It's a conversation of empowerment.
Yes.
And for all of us. And so, that is another, I mean, that's not a win. It's something that I'm actively working on reframing for anybody who comes in my universe of, this is what I do. There are no victims here. We all have choices, and these are the opportunities we can take. Now that, and to say there are no victims might be a little far, because there definitely are, right? But we don't come with a victim mindset.
Right.
We come with a solution focus. And
the other piece of that you were talking about, it's like there's not a scarcity, right? When I go back to that, the chief dignity officer, like there's no human dignity won't run out. Right? Like if we're providing people with the opportunity to thrive in their lives and lead lives of dignity, it doesn't mean that gets taken away from you.
Right.
Right.
No.
This is not a, right, again, like, it's not pie. That's what gets used all the time, but it's so true. Right. In fact, everybody, right? Everybody benefits. Yeah.
Everybody benefits. If your neighbors are homeowners, they're more likely to take care of their property. They're more likely to paint. Your property values are more likely to go up. They're more likely to shop if you own a small business, right? So it's something that continues to perpetually benefit everyone.
Right.
And I want everybody to have the life they deserve, right? That is whatever life you want. I want you to be able to have that life. Here are the resources. Have at it. Have a good time.
What are some of the just sort of quick wins that you've experienced, or just, things like, we put this program in place, or we made this choice, or, what are some of those things that it's like, oh, wow, that was great. Like, we thought it was going to work, and it did.
Yeah. Okay. So last year was like incredible. And, I learned a new level of what being a workaholic means. And what I saw last year was a business community that stepped out on faith over and over and over again in order to help the community at large. Yeah. And so this example, I'll use this all the time, because a friend of mine who is a former NFL player who came to Buffalo last year, Josh Norman, came to Buffalo, and he decided, like, I'm going to be here and do as much for this community as I possibly can. So he wanted to give back to small businesses. And, he came to me and said, I think it was $25,000. I've got $25,000. I want to give this back to the community. And then from that, we developed a program called the Buffalo Business Blitz. And he put a call out to raise $1 million. And I was like, no, like, don't. I said, no, don't say it. Don't do it. Like, how are we going to raise $1 million in a month? Do you know we raised over $500,000 in a month? And he said to me, Shatora, if I aim for the stars and I land on the moon, that's still better. Right. And so that we gave away over $500,000 in less than 6 weeks.
Yeah.
From the day he called me to the day we gave it out. Right.
Yep.
I think it was 6 weeks, maybe 8. But the point is that, like, that was absolutely incredible. And what I learned is that if you are centered on your principles, if you know what your values are, and if you are willing to step out on faith and work a whole lot, you can get more done than you ever expected. So no, did we raise $1 million? No. But did I think we were going to raise 500,000 plus? No, I definitely didn't. I definitely did not. And so I learned a huge lesson from that. Don't play small. Do not play it small.
We, as a team at Moxie, we talk about playing to win instead of playing not to lose.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think in this work, there has to be this playing to win instead of
Mhm.
playing not to lose, right? Because
Mhm.
you approach things so differently. And what
Mhm.
I love about that story too is I think sometimes we forget, I'm saying we collectively
Mhm.
as DEI practitioners, I think sometimes we forget to be audacious,
Mhm.
because this is hard and it's messy, and
Messy.
feels so many times it feels like you take 3 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, two
Mhm.
steps back, right? That sometimes that audacity can feel like it's been beaten out of you. But I love that
Mhm.
story because it's like, remember occasionally, right, to shoot for the stars, and to
Mhm.
be audacious in what you're asking for, and to be audacious in an approach, and to be innovative, and to try new things, and to play to win.
Mhm. Yeah. I love that play to win because so many times when I visit other organizations, they're afraid to do anything
Hmm.
when it comes to diversity, equity, inclusion. And I always say, like, you're not gonna get it right. I know, I know practitioners all across this country in major metropolitans, in Fortune 100 companies. No, nobody gets it right every single time.
Nope.
It, it's about respond, how you react, and how you pivot. You know, um,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, you have to play to win. Mhm.
And this idea too of right, the mess, embracing the messy heart of it. You're not going to, and what's at risk of doing nothing is people's human dignity.
Mhm. Mhm.
So are you more worried about making a mistake or things not going perfectly, and in the meantime people can quite literally, in your case, be suffering,
Mhm.
um, right? It's worth it, right? Or you
Right.
have people like that. All the research that's been done, that when I feel excluded, when I feel, it's the same as feeling physical pain.
Yeah.
So
You know, that just made me think, like, what if a doctor said, "I'm afraid to treat your cancer because I might get it wrong."
right,
They get it wrong all the time, right? It doesn't always work, but they have to do something.
right,
They know, okay, these are the clinical methods, and every body is different, just like every organization is different, right? It's not always going to have the same result, but how negligent, I never met a problem that got solved by ignoring it, right? How
yeah.
negligent would it be to say, oh, we have this cancer in our organization, so let's do nothing for fear of disrupting it even more. No. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I like talking to you,
I
Mo.
love that. Leave me with one last truth bomb.
This
That might
I
have been
learned.
it.
No, that this is something I learned very early on. No one is beyond redemption.
Mm,
No one is beyond redemption, no matter what they've done, what they've said, what they believe. Um, so every day, uh, as hard as it can be, lead with love. And 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line, that person is going to come back and thank you.
mm,
They're going to come back and thank you, because people change all the time. Now, you can't make somebody change, but you can give people the space to do so. So yeah, nobody's beyond redemption. We need more love in our society now more than ever.
yeah.
You know, we get anxiety. I get anxiety just watching the news. So, um,
Wow.
you know, there's just a lot going on with a lot of people, with everyone actually. And so we can't continue to categorize people or look at people as other. We have to understand that, like, that dignity is the thing, no matter what, no matter who they are, what they believe, what their political affiliations are. So That's it.
What a great conversation. Thank you. And thank you for the work you do, and keep it up. And just know that you've got a cheerleader out here. And everybody, take one thing that you just heard from Shatora and do something with it. As you know, I would say do the next right thing.
Mhm.
And everyday small actions that we're all taking is how we change the world. So
Mhm.
thanks, y'all. Thanks, Shatora, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Mo.